Hi everybody, welcome to the Friday Groom. I'm Melanie Newman and this is Trey, my miniature poodle. Let me know, give me a thumbs up if you guys can hear me okay and the sound is all good from your end. And let me know where you guys are watching from. And have we got any thumbs up? Might take a bit to come through. I'll give a couple of seconds. I hope we've all had a good week and happy Black Friday. I hope you guys snag some bargains. And you can hit our website as well in Australia for Black Friday deals as well. Oh, hey TC Bear, thank you. Great, yep, sounds good. Okay, because I don't like to start without the sound. Good, thank you guys. Thank you, I appreciate it. Okay, so the last few grooming sessions, we've really learned a lot about scissors and different techniques, and I've really given you guys some, are you tired, Trey? Given you guys some things that you could take back to your own dogs or your own learnings and practice yourself. So I really hope it's helped you guys out with your... Oh, hey, Rhonda, thank you. Thank you. And I really hope it's helped you guys out with your everyday grooming or grooming your own dogs, which is super important to me as well. But today we are going to learn all about combs. So this is more of the foundations about combs. So I know when my first grooming comp was early 2000s, and I think I groomed a miniature poodle and another breed, I can't remember. But it was the first trade show that I went to, and I was looking at all this different equipment and all these tools, and I don't know if anyone can relate, but I used to use like a comb like this. So it had a handle, only a small amount of pins. So again, you're limited to the amount of space you're covering on your dog. So this is a type of comb that I used. And then I seen everybody using these combs, and I was so excited about using a bigger comb to cover more surface on my dog when I'm brushing, and all this new equipment, all these different colors. But what eventually happened was I had probably 10 of the same comb, or I might have had 5 of one comb, and I felt like it was the same equipment, but I just kept buying it and I didn't know why I was buying it. So I'd like to just give you guys a heads up on the different purposes for combs and equipment in that matter, just because I don't want you guys to have 20,000 of the same comb, because you don't need that. Or you might buy a comb for a double coat and you might have a little Yorkie. So I just want to guide you guys on the right equipment for your breed. So we will start. So a comb, let's go through the purpose of a comb. So a comb is, now I've made some little training notes for you guys, so you guys can read through, and I'll pop these in our community today as well, so you guys can have a good read. So our combs are used for removing dead hair. So this is mostly for double-coated breeds, and we don't want to tear through the hair. We just want to lightly remove the dead hair. So for double-coated breeds, so we're not talking our curly coat. So it helps reduce shedding and prevents a coat from becoming impacted as well. And the way that we would use our combs to de-shed is line brushing. So we'll go through that as well. Our combs can be used to cross-check our work. So in one of our first lessons, we spoke about using a slicker correctly. So we would use a slicker before we use our comb. So we would cross-check with our comb to make sure there's no knots and tangles through our coat. Another reason to use our combs is to lift and separate the coat, ready for hand scissoring the coat. So when we move through the coat, and we'll go through the technique that we're going to use for scissoring our dog's body, legs, head, it's used for lifting and separating the coat and creating air under the coat to give that beautiful lift, and it helps hold the hair before we begin to scissor. So that's really important. Okay, so let's go through our little comb. So there's some purposes that we use for our combs. We never use our combs to demat the coat or rip through knots and tangles, because not only does it hurt the dog greatly, we're removing the healthy coat, and the healthy coat in a dog helps protect all those other little bits of hair in our dog's coat. So, and what can happen is when we're pulling through and ripping out knots and tangles in our dog's coat, it can snap the hair and break the hair, and it actually makes the coat more brittle, and then that can cause more knots and tangles as well. So it's really important that you understand the use of a comb. So let's go through so we'll go to our little close-up so I can show you guys. Oh, thanks, Cor. Okay, so we've got this comb here. Now this is what we call a wide tooth comb. Now if we look at the pins, they're spaced quite far apart. But if we bend the pins, they move a little bit. So they're a lot more flexible. So this comb we wouldn't use for double-coated breeds. This comb is used for lifting and separating the coat on a dog. And the pins also come down to a point, and they are quite pointy. So when we go through that coat, it really comes through to the base of the hair and lifts and separates as we're going through. So let's look at a similar comb. So this is another wide tooth comb, but the pins are really firm. So this is a great comb for, again, lifting and separating, not as much as this, and I'll tell you in a minute, but it's also great for heavy curly-coated breeds. So if you've got a standard poodle that has a lot of coat, Kerry Blue Terriers, it's really great to go through the coat. And our double-coated breeds, I'm not sure if I just said that. But if we look at these two combs, the pins on this comb, they don't really taper to a point. They do slightly, but it's more the same width throughout. But if we look at this comb actually tapers to a point. So it's thicker, and then it gets thinner towards the tip of the pins. So again, when we go through to lift, this is going to work better, and it's great for our single coated breeds. Whereas this is a lot more sturdier. The pins aren't flexible at all. So I know this is a heavy duty comb. So when I go through and we line brush on those double coated breeds or heavy coated breeds, I know it's going to do my job, and I know the pins aren't really going to bend under any major stress. But these ones, they definitely will bend and lose its shape. Okay, so this is one of the, well, it's not the first comb I brought because That was almost 25 years ago. But it's a similar comb. Now, these combs are great because you can use them for almost anything. I have them in our baths as well, just in case I want to really give a really good deep condition and I want to brush through the coat gently. Now, these pins, again, they don't move at all, so they're great for our heavy coated dogs. And we also have the fine tooth on the other side, which is great for our dogs' muzzles or any smaller, more intricate areas. Now, this comb, you can see the pins hardly taper at all. So this isn't a good comb for lifting and separating. This is a good comb for a workhorse comb to really get in there and remove loose, dead undercoat. And again, we're not breaking coat, we're not removing the healthy coat. It's just to remove the loose, dense coat. Okay, and then we're going to look at this comb here. I like this comb. This is a great comb for our double-coated breeds, such as our Samoyeds, more our larger double-coated breeds, so Samoyeds and those type of breeds, more our Arctic breeds. This comb is great, not only because it's got a handle, so as I've got older, my hands get a lot more tired from grooming, but it gives me more support, so when I'm line brushing, I can gently go through and remove any dead hair through there. Again, the pins don't really taper a lot, but that's okay because we're just removing heavy amounts of undercoat with this comb. Okay, so let's move towards our double pin comb. So we've got a finer tooth on one side and a wide tooth on the other. So one side is more separated and one side is finer. This is a great comb and it's kind of in between our flexible separating comb and our more heavy duty comb. It has got a little bit of flexibility in it, but not too much. The pins are slightly longer as well. So if we look at the difference in pins, this is longer than this. So I like to use this on, say, our Kerry Blues, our miniature poodles, anything that has a longer coat where I really need to get in there and I need the pins to really penetrate down to the base of the skin to be able to get through there. Because sometimes this isn't long enough, that I might need to work a little bit harder to get right down to the base. So when you're looking at a comb, look at the length of hair your dog has as well. It's really important. So you might have a shorter haired dog and a smaller breed, and something like this might be more suitable. So the pins have a little bit of flexibility to it, but not a whole lot. But we've got the wider tooth on one side and the fine tooth on the other. Now I'll always go through with the wider tooth first and then flip around and go through with the finer second. So I never go through with the fine first. I always cross-check with our wide tooth first. So if you've got a smaller breed, you might not need a long comb. You might just need something that's a little bit smaller and a little bit more offensive to your dog. So something smaller might be more your cup of tea. So they're more our workhorse combs. So I wanted to quickly talk about our finishing combs because I tend to go into salons and a lot of people use finishing combs, and what can actually happen is, because the teeth on a finishing comb, they are really fine, like really, really fine, and they are really flexible, so they move quite easily. So if you look at, and I'm not pressing hard, but they do move. So this comb should only be used to lift and separate the coat, to create air under the coat for when we're going to scissor or clip the coat. So they're a finishing comb. So I might use this comb first to go through our dog's coat to cross-check to make sure there's no knots and tangles, and then I'll go through with our finishing comb. Now there's sort of two different types of finishing combs. There's a finishing comb that has an extra fine side, and you can see like there's hardly any space between that compared to our more wide part. Now this is still quite fine for me. And this here, I wouldn't use the extra fine on a thick coated breed. So probably not like your Kerries, or if you've got a mini poodle or a standard that has a quite closed thick coat, you would use the wider part. So there is one that is completely where the teeth are 100% equal spaces. So this is probably more what I use. I'll only use this if it might be like a single coat, or I really need to get in there on the whiskers of a dog and really separate the coat to make sure that I'm going to get an even finish on the coat. So let me show you what can happen if you start to remove knots and tangles with the comb, with a finishing comb. The teeth will move and they'll start to meet, and they'll, you can kind of see how they are a bit messy and a bit everywhere. And then what can actually happen is when we go back through to use this comb, our dog's hair can get caught in between the teeth and it can snag in there, and we can not only, again, hurt the dog, which we definitely don't want to do, but it will break the coat. So as soon as that coat pulls, it's going to hurt our dog, and it's also going to break coat. So again, put this comb down if your comb is ending up like this, and then lift up more of your workhorse comb. So I probably wouldn't use a finishing comb on a double coated breed because it might actually take out too much hair, and we don't want to strip our dog's hair completely. We want to leave a little bit of protection in our double coats. So that's a little bit about our combs. Oh, and I wanted to mention our curved comb. So this one's a Colin Taylor comb. Now they're great for creating shape, or like you can put the comb there around the dog's pants and comb it all up, bring it in, pull it out, and then scissor. So they're a really good shape maker. And then we've got this is a parting comb or an eye comb. So it helps the fine area, will help remove any gunk from the eye, and also our parting end, which helps with our banding our dogs. So there's that type of comb as well. So I really hope that helps now. So I'm just going to pop Trey up, much to his disgust that he thought he was here to sleep. Okay, so if you guys have any questions, definitely ask as we go along. And I hope you guys have all your combs with you so we can groom together. So I'm just going to pop some of these down so I've got a bit more room, because If anybody knows me, I hate a messy grooming table. Good boy, buddy. Okay, so we can go back to our close-up. Okay, so we're going to brush out his leg. So he had a bath yesterday, but you could do this on a dirty coat as well. So I'm just going to lightly go through with our slicker, just to make sure there's no knots and tangles. Now he has been playing with his baby brother Flash, so he might be a little bit messy. There we go. Make sure we go on the inside. So Trey has more of an open coat for a poodle, so it's not completely closed. So open means it's a little bit more sparse. He still has a good amount of curl. Good boy. Okay, so hope you guys can see. I'll just move him up a bit for you. There we go. Perfect. Good boy, Trey. Okay, so I'm going to use our wide tooth comb to start with. And we're just going to gently go through and line brush. So when we line brush, we're doing sections at a time. Does everybody else use this technique at home to line brush and brush out their dog? So you can see how it's separating the coat and going through. Now he's got a bit of a tangle there, so I'm going to remove the comb and then go back through with my slicker and then cross-check it with my comb, because I want this hair to be as healthy as possible. Oh, you're welcome, Rhonda. Okay. So see how it's a little bit heavy through there. So instead of coming through, now I'm pulling pretty firm on that there, so you can see how he's moving. I'm not going to rip that down. I'm going to visually make sure I can feel where it is with my eyes. So I know where that is. I can feel where it is with the comb. Take the comb out, give a little spritz of a coat conditioning detangling spray, and then go back through, because we want nice healthy coats. Yep, and you can use the slicker as well. TC, yes, definitely use a slicker. So that technique would be to before you use your comb for line brushing. Mel, is that with the wider tooth comb first? Yes, so this is with the wider one first, Deb. Thanks for joining us, Deb. So that's with the wider one first. And then we're going back through. And let's check his hocks. Okay. So then I'm going to go through with our finer tooth on the other side, and it's just a quick check, just to make sure I haven't missed anything with the wide tooth. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our finishing comb. So if this is just a maintenance comb through, if you know it's a Thursday night and I just want to get him nice and fresh for the weekend and brushed out, this is all I would use for a maintenance. So if I'm then going to scissor his leg or his coat, we're going to use a fine tooth comb. So if I keep a straight wrist, So what we don't want to do when we comb is bend. Maybe if I go on this side, we don't want to bend. So see how I'm bending my wrist like this, and all of a sudden it feels like there's knots in there, but there's actually not. So there's no knots. But if I twist up, it not only pulls on his leg and he gets a bit annoyed. Sorry, Trey, it's just a demo. It feels like there's knots. It's really uncomfortable for the dog as well. So nice and straight wrist, and then we're just lifting that coat. And you can see nice and straight going through. So I'm not bending like this. There's none of that. It's just lifting. And as I'm going through the coat, we can actually close our eyes and feel the coat through the comb, because you can feel the tension. So if it's really thick through there, I know there's knots through there. Good boy. So it's a good idea to practice, and we're going to start with our fine tooth comb from the bottom and lifting up and coming out. So as we're going through that coat, if we start from the top and go down, see how it pushes the coat down? We want to be able to lift that coat and create air under the coat and really get a lot of volume through his coat. So let me show you guys from the side. There we go. So you can see how I'm just lifting. So starting from the bottom and then just lifting through. Oh, no, because he's off his little grooming loop. He thinks it's over. So I'm coming in and out. So it's going to the base and then out. And my wrist is straight. Okay, so if we are going to, if we've got a double coated breed, and we can still demonstrate on tray the technique. Okay, so if we've got a double coated breed, we can then use our wide tooth comb, and then we're going to gently go through and feel as we're going through and line brush as we're going through. If we hit a knot in our double coats, I always head back to my slicker and just work through that knot. There is a difference between knots and just a heavy coated dog with lots of undercoat. So there's a big difference. But I want you guys to really feel through the comb, as you're combing through. So if you do hit a knot, remove the comb and go back with your slicker. Our combs aren't used for detangling. Do you guys have any questions? No questions? Oh, you're onto it today. Okay, so let's just do our little muzzle. I'll use a little bit of spray, go back through with the slicker. Now I did his little with the slicker earlier, but if we use our little parting comb, I'm just going to gently use the fine tooth end to go through his little eye area. There we go. Good boy. And then we can take that through his little muzzle, holding onto his little chin hair. So it's nice and separated. So we can see the separation happening. through his coat, which is super important. Okay, so too busy. Yeah, too busy paying attention. What do I do with pin knots? So if we're talking about those little knots, what comb? No, I would use a slicker or a pin brush and go through and just gently go through to remove the knot, and then I would go back through the process with a comb. I would never come through and tease out that, say that's a little pin knot there, I would never come through and tease that out. If we go to the close-up call. So we've got little knots through here. If I go through, it's probably going to break a lot of coat on that ends. And as soon as that's broken, it's going to look a lot sparse on the ends, and it's going to take another good inch to grow out. So I always spray the coat, gently remove with our slicker, or if the coat is more fragile, we would use a pin brush and go back through and then cross-check, because this is how we're going to get healthier coat and healthier ends. It's definitely not a good idea to just brush through, because I can feel in there's knots and tangles, but instead of coming straight through, I just separate the coat and then just gently work through it so there's no knots, and then go back through. We really need to protect the hair, and if you're growing out a top knot, it's really, really super important. Okay, so how do we feel about that? So I've shown you guys a lot about scissors, and now about combing. So if you use your comb correctly, and really practice with your dog as well. So come through and lift. Really watch and feel your wrist, so we don't want to snap our wrist coming around. We want nice straight wrists and coming from our shoulder, so coming through and up. So let me know how you guys go, because that's a good session to then practice your scissoring. So you've learned how to comb up. So when you comb up, then practice your scissoring. So that's a good lesson that you guys can do during the week with your own dogs. Next week, we are going to be trimming ears and learning about a little bit about different ear shape and how that can affect when we trim the dog's ears and making sure they're nice and even, and also how to create softer edges. So we'll be using our straight scissors, curves, blenders and thinners. So that will be a really good one if you guys are struggling with your dog's ears. And for all my American friends, happy Thanksgiving. I think it's tomorrow for you guys. And for my Australian friends, happy Black Friday. And we have, I think, one spot left on our scissoring workshop. So if you're interested in that, you guys can go to our website. There's some information on that. And there's a QR code. Okay, so we've got two places. I think one girl wants one. I need to contact her. So if you do want to join that, definitely get in quick, because that's filling up for next week. Okay, so that concludes our lesson for today. So definitely practice during the week, and have the most amazing Friday and an even better weekend. And I will see you next Friday, and I'll put up those PDFs in our community, so definitely look out for that. Okay, thanks guys. I'll see you next